Good afternoon and welcome to Today on BayTV. We are live in Swansea on Friday the 16th of June 2017. I'm Harry Dobby Cook, next to me is Liz Cairns.
Yes, and the Ramblers have joined us. And before we have a look at what's happened on this day, should we talk about some walking?
Yeah, why not? Last weekend we had 3 walks. We had 2 on Saturday, one of which we got really, really wet. That was up in the mountains. And then Sunday we went to Talgarth. We tend to go further afield in the summertime, so that's a sort of 60-mile drive from Swansea. But that was a really good walk. Some squally showers, but really good. I think we got a video clip of a little bit of this as well.
Oh, brilliant. Should we have a look?
Let's have a little look and you talk us through it.
This is where we started near Talgarth, and there are the mountains in the background where we were walking up towards that.
Gorgeous, though.
Yeah, and the weather, you know, was very squally. That's not a very good shot. And then we were on the ridge then, on that ridge that we saw. We walked right to the end of that and then back down then. It's about 5 hours in all. And ended up walking through a nature reserve called Pwll y Grach, the Witch's Pool, near Talgarth.
Oh, it looks so like Jurassic, like Jurassic Park, doesn't it?
Yeah. Cool. And then we had another walk on Wednesday evening.
Yes, at Penmain.
We've
got a series of evening walks, and weather started to look like it was going to thunder and rain, and then the sun came out again, and it was a beautiful, glorious evening. Blue seas across Three Cliffs Bay. We had a lovely walk.
I think we've got a clip of this, haven't we? Yes, let's have a little look. So talk us through what we're seeing now.
This is Penmain Burrows, and you're about to see one of the best views in Wales, which is Three Cliffs Bay. And a wonderful time to see it because it was blue, the sun was out. It was a wonderful evening to go for a walk. This is walking down through the Burrows. Again, we're coming across to look at Three Cliffs Bay. And then we walk down to the bottom of the bay and back up the top again. And this is us going down. In the distance, you can just about see the castle. But there's another Pennard Castle is on the other side, but we don't visit that night. We just drop down here to the sea level there, and the tide's out, so we can continue along. And then we walk up the path. This is at the bottom, and the coast path. This is the Wales coast path, part of that. Okay. So we've walked part of that on the Wednesday night, and within a moment we'll go back up, and at the top then we get this wonderful view over Three Cliffs Bay again. Stunning. And it's all on the coast path here. There we are. So this is at the top now. And it's a wonderful view for tourists to come and see. It's one of those gems that people come miles to come and see. It was such a lovely evening to go for a walk. You know, when you're working indoors all day, and you can just get out with Swansea Ramblers and just enjoy a summer evening walk.
And what time was that?
It's we started about 7 o'clock and walked for about 2 hours. As you can see, it's getting a little darkish there. So we got back long before it was dark, but the sun had just started to fade there. But it's just enough time, 2 hours, to go for a lovely evening walk.
Makes such a difference now with the light nights, doesn't it?
Yes, we make the most of them.
Yeah, I bet.
So what's coming up?
Okay, this weekend we've got a series of walks called the Irish Ferry Walks. We're finishing off that. It really follows the railway route from Swansea to Fishguard and Pembroke, Pembroke Dock. So some of us are going down to Haverfordwest, staying in a hotel in Haverfordwest for 3 nights. Saturday we're going to catch a bus to Pembroke Dock, walk back to Haverfordwest. Sunday then we're going to drive to Letterston and then walk back to Haverfordwest. And then Monday we're going to complete the route by starting in Letterston and walking to Fishguard. We can use buses on Monday, but Sunday it's tricky to do it. So it's...
Wow, and how long would that take you?
Well, the first 2 are about 11, 12 miles each, so we're talking about 5 to 6 hours. The Monday one's 8.5 miles, so we're talking about probably about 4.5 hours, something like that.
Just pray now the weather will be lovely for you. Mind you, it doesn't stop them, does it?
No, it doesn't stop us.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend, you're right, the forecast is really good, so...
Yeah, and we're uploading to YouTube now a video of us of last Saturday in the pouring rain on our St. Nectar's walk. So that should go live later on today if anyone wants to watch that. But also, as well as the same time that Richard's going to be walking in Pembroke, we're going out to Preseli. We've hired a coach for the day, and we're going to walk across the Preseli Hills with stunning views. We come up onto Carningley, which is one of these magical, mythical areas with all the druids and things, and you can look down at Newport Bay. And if we get a day like you just saw with the blue sea, it's an absolutely fantastic view. And of course, we drop down to the pub. And we finish at the pub. Wonderful day out.
Perfect day out.
Yeah.
Well, here's a weird one for you then. Is there any benefits to walking in the rain?
Well, you still get the exercise, don't you? And you've got the waterproofs, yes, okay. And it's actually, you do eventually get a bit wet, 5 or 6 hours, but at the end of it, you think, oh, well, you can go home, you can have a shower, hot shower, change the dry clothes, and I have a sense of achievement.
Yeah, exhilarating, I bet.
And with every walk, I always got to change of clothing in the back of the car, just in case. And then you can go to the pub.
Pro Ramblers,
We make the most of it, I mean, and all these details are on swansearamblers.org.uk, as always. So people are always welcome to come and join us.
Definitely.
And there are photos of previous walks there as well, and videos, so everyone can look and see what we've been doing. Just come along and enjoy it. Everybody enjoys it when they come.
That's the best advert ever, isn't it, I think?
Definitely.
Should we have a little look at what happened on this day in kind of the last couple of minutes? We're going to start in 1884. The first roller coaster in America opened. Are you a roller coaster fan, Liz?
No, I go on them, but I do tend to get a bit scared, if I'm honest. But then, like you said, about a self-achievement, I feel once I'm off then I'm wobbling. But I do like them.
Guys, are you theme park goers, roller coaster fans? No?
Not for a long time now.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because obviously there's been some quite awful tragedies in recent years, so I think they have kind of taken a bit of a backseat, haven't they, for day outs. Moving on, 1963, the first woman in space on June 16th, obviously today. A Soviet space mission this was, and 48 orbits, so 71 hours, and she returned to Earth. That's amazing. And there's some other great ones. The foundation of the Women's Institute started in 1915. So is there... The WI is still a thing, isn't it? It's still going? So I remember growing up, I would go with my nan before I was in school to buy cupcakes and stuff. And I guess that's like, it's like a community, kind of like the Ramblers.
So. Definitely. I think they've adapted as the years have gone by. I mean, I'm sure I think it's still thriving quite well locally. Several branches of the WI, So they do a bit of walking as well sometimes.
Oh, do they?
Not necessarily with us, but I think it'd be nice if they come with us.
Ask them to join.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's another one here, 1982, South Wales coalfield came to a standstill as miners went on strike in support of health workers who were demanding a 12% pay rise. So that's quite an important one close to home. Richard, can you remember this kind of happening in 1982?
I don't remember in 82, obviously the miners' strike, 83, 84, but 82, I don't quite remember that. But obviously there were still a number of coalfields in South Wales then, deep mines then, all gone now, of course.
But obviously really kind of important times and something we have to remember locally. And then finally, something we're going to be talking about more in part two. In 2016, Jo Cox, the Labour MP for Bartley and Spen, sadly died. She was shot and stabbed multiple times in West Yorkshire. This is something we're going to be talking about more in part two with obviously Christina Rees. And it's still so sad.
I know.
To think it was a year ago today.
I know. And today and throughout the weekend, I know there's going to be a lot of celebrations. Like everybody wants to celebrate her life and what she meant and what her achievements she wanted to do. And she did a lot. And that's what they want to celebrate. And I think that's important as well.
And her husband and so many people, her friends and family, have done so much since.
Yes, they have.
Within the last year to kind of make her remembered and never forgotten. So many positive things have come from it. And we're going to talk more about it in the next part. So, in the final moments, Richard and Andrew, just again, what's the plan for the weekend?
So we've got the Irish Ferry walks from Haverfordwest. We're going to the Preseli Mountains on a separate trip on Saturday, and then Sunday there's another walk up towards the north of the Brecon Beacons, Myddfai and around that area.
The following Saturday, I'm leading on Kilvey Hill at 4:15 from Bonamine. So anyone wants to come to Bonamine, 4:15, join me over Kilvey Hill.
And if they want to get in contact, again, just the details.
They're on the website.
The website.
Just contact us from there.
That's great.
I wonder if there'd be anybody joining with their fathers. Seen it'd be Father's Day weekend.
Oh, yeah, of course, Father's Day on Sunday. That'd be quite, if it's nice, go for a walk with your dad.
There we go.
Well,
Definitely.
thank you both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to be inviting Mike Hedges AM to the sofa with Christina Rees, the Shadow Secretary of Wales.
We're going to be looking at today's papers and talking more about Jo Cox. Stay with us on BayTV.
See you then.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Liz Cairns and with me is Henry Darby-Cook. Christina Rees, the Shadow Secretary for Wales, has joined us and so has Mike Hedges AM.
So we're going to start by looking at today's papers.
Yeah, we are. And following on from the conversation we just had with regards to Joe Cox, the Daily Express online, they've had a lovely video which we'd like to show. We also have another one as well.
Okay.
We'll show this one first.
Our country is in pain. There are kids who haven't come home. Mums and dads no longer here. Our country will not give in. We've seen terror before. We've confronted every threat. Because our people are strong. No matter how hard they try, they will not divide us. We'll come together. We'll help each other. We'll drive out hatred and keep the extremists at bay, because that's who we are.
So Sally can wait.
A united kingdom.
Very strong.
Yeah, and like I said, over the weekends they're going to be celebrating her life and that. And the Great Get Together, that's what it's called, is inspired by Joe Cox. Did you ever meet her or?
Yeah, I didn't know her that well. I wasn't a close friend, but whenever I came into contact with her, she was amazingly enthusiastic, so energetic, always had an idea, you know, and she spoke so quickly. And then she'd go off on something else halfway through the sentence, you know. She was just an inspiration.
Yeah.
She touched everyone.
Yes.
And she'd only been there a short time, because we came in together in 2015.
Right.
And her husband has been so magnificent.
Yeah.
He wants everything to be a celebration of her life.
Yes.
And not about her death.
Yeah.
And he's written a book now which has come out. And I strongly recommend that you read that.
Yeah.
And that is a celebration of Jo. And in the House of Commons, we're going to unveil a plaque to her where we sit on the opposition benches.
Right.
It's going to be behind us on the wall.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, but she was such an amazing person and, you know, died doing her job.
No, exactly. And it's one of those, the quotes, we have more in common than which divide us. And that says it all, really, doesn't it? It's what she was and what she meant and what she fought for. And to unite everybody.
She said that in her maiden speech.
Yeah.
And that will always be Joe's saying now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it's behind you in the opposition benches, will it be moving shortly?
Oh yes, we are preparing for government, Mike. Good point.
The other thing I suppose, she got murdered doing something which I'm going to do twice this afternoon, and just holding a surgery. And I'm sure Christine has held hundreds of them since she's been elected.
Yeah.
I did one this morning, or two this afternoon. You go to a surgery. You do meet some angry people, you do meet some people with mental health issues, but you do not expect to be physically attacked, and you certainly don't expect to be murdered.
No.
This afternoon I'm going from here to Trebanos, which is a village in my constituency, and we're doing a street surgery which Mike knows all about.
Yeah.
So yesterday we leafleted through the doors of the houses and saying, if you want to see me tomorrow, put my notice in the window.
Right.
And we actually do, it's like house-to-house calls, you know.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's really good because you're in people's community and they feel more comfortable sometimes about talking about very difficult issues in their own environment.
And maybe they couldn't even reach you anyway, maybe they wouldn't be able to leave the home and things.
Exactly.
That's really, really good idea, actually. Definitely.
They work very well, but again, that in terms of what happened with Joe Cox, I mean, you're actually going in many cases, to the homes of strangers.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm taking my staff
I was going to say,
with me.
And
I've got three quite big men, if you see what I mean. So they're coming with me. But Mike is quite right. After what happened to Joe, the House of Commons were very proactive in providing extra security for us all.
Right.
Especially the women, you know, they did look after us. And I had a bit of a shock when I went back to Parliament after the break for the election. What they've done to Westminster Bridge, which was one of the scenes of the terrorist incidents. They've put barriers up along the bridge because it's a very busy bridge, and I stay in a hotel on the other side. You know, because there's only me, I don't have a flat. I just stay in hotels, you know, which is perfectly allowed. And I walk over that bridge every morning and then back at night. And the difference to that bridge now, they've got concrete barriers now on the walk-in part of the bridge.
How does that make you feel?
It sort of brought it back to me because, you know, you deal with things in your own personal way, and I tend to sort of absorb things. That's how I deal with things, and then put them in little compartments. And I'll open the doors to the compartments again.
But when you're faced with it then, obviously, like you said, you can see it visually.
And actually, as I was driving down here today, apparently they've arrested someone at College Gates today with a knife.
That's true,
The security, though, has been beefed up actually in the House of Commons as well. There were loads of police before, lots of police around, but now they're armed police and they're really beefed up the security.
Down at the Assembly as well, lots of armed police there, and there's not quite the level of security as at the House of Commons, but they have increased the security dramatically, and they do have armed police throughout the building. It used to be just at the entrances, but now we can armed police throughout any area the public can go in. There are armed police.
Sorry to be political, but what worries me is that under the Tories, they've cut back the number of police and all other emergency services, which was highlighted in the terrible incident with the fire, because they cut back on the fire services as well. So, and the ambulances and everything. So, really, we're at full stretch all the time. And that does concern me greatly. I mean, when we get into government and, you know, I can't stop smiling actually because of the, you know, great result. It was a great night, Mike, wasn't it?
Very great night. I remember in the beginning of the election campaign, I said that my greatest hope and Theresa May's greatest fear, it'll be like February 1974. It wasn't quite like February 1974, but it certainly moved very much in that direction. And we had it in February, we had another election in October, and I'd be very surprised to do another election by this time next year.
Well, I was sitting there in the count in Neath, and we were looking at the results coming in, because, you know, counts take ages, you know, so you've got time to kill. So I was sitting there, and the results were coming in, and we were going, oh, wow, oh, didn't expect that one. Oh, and I thought it was a little bit 1997. Do you remember that,
Yes,
Mike?
I remember 1997.
The red tide swept through the UK when we had, I can't remember how many Labour MPs, but there were masses.
I remember at the 1997, Labour had lots of surprise wins, and everybody talks about what happened in London when we won Enfield Southgate. We actually won Crosby before it, but as Corby was on our expected list, no, people just thought they'd written it down wrongly. But
I mean, in Wales, you know, the results, we went from 25 to 28 Labour MPs, and the first poll that came out at the start of the election, an ITV Roger Scully poll, said that we may go down to 11. So we were wondering whether we would be the largest party. So we exceeded all expectations. And we got really close to some other Tory strongholds as well. Like in Arfon, where I stood for the Assembly in 2011, which is Plaid Cymru stronghold, you know. They weigh the votes up there. We got within 92 votes of Howell Williams, the Plaid Cymru MP for Arfon.
And the former leader.
Former leader. So he stood down now, and Liz Saville-Roberts is now leader of Plaid. And then we got within, was it 315 votes of Stephen Crabb in Preseli, Pembrokeshire? And
600 plus in Aberconwy. I mean, these were seats which perhaps if we know we were doing as well, we could have perhaps put a lot more effort in, and certainly Arfon was winnable. But Arfon was a classic seat. I mean, if you look at the big swings to Labour, they either say, I've either got London or a university at the end of them. And anywhere with lots of university students and other young people, there's lots of ex-students, the sort of... People talk about us doing very well with 18 to 21-year-olds. We did equally as well with the 21 to 24 and the 24 to 27-year-olds. It's younger people. And you've got Bangor University with, 10,000 students. We did very well. We've had our best result in Ceredigion probably since 1974, and that was based upon Lampeter and Aberystwyth universities. You give me a university, I give you lots of Labour votes.
I'm going to have to stop you there, sorry, but thank you.
Next, we're going to be keeping Christina with us on the sofa, and we're going to be talking about her first week back in Parliament. Stay with us on BayTV. welcome back to Today on BayTV. I'm Henry Darby-Cook. This is Liz Cairns.
And Christina Rees, the Shadow Secretary for Wales, is still with us. Christina, it's been a busy week for you then.
Yeah, tremendous. We went back up on Monday and we didn't know when the Queen's speech was going to be.
Yeah.
So that's been sort of up in the air. And now that's going to be next Wednesday. Obviously, the Prime Minister was trying to do a deal with the DUP so she could actually get the Queen's speech through.
Yeah.
And that's caused her difficulties as well.
Yeah.
And then we've, our result exceeded all expectations, so we're actually preparing for government.
Right.
So, should we expect the Queen's speech on Wednesday, or is that likely to change again?
No, that's going to go ahead now on Wednesday.
Right,
notices have been sent out, so that's firm. And we don't know what's going to be in it. Likelihood is going to be a very light legislative programme because of the risk of us voting her down or trying to vote the government down.
Right.
That's
so how would that
works.
work?
Well, what works is that there's going to be 5 days of debate after the Queen's speech, and there'll be topics, various topics in that debate, such as education, health, and everybody speaks on what is contained in the Queen's speech. So say there's a bill on education. We debate the bill on education, and at the end there's a vote taken, and we will try to vote the government down so that there'll be a vote of no confidence in her, and then we can go to the country again, have another election, and then we'll be in government. That's the strategy anyway.
Smile again.
Yeah.
You have to stop smiling.
Well, it's funny because obviously you were here this time last week. We were all very tired and we spoke about many different things, another referendum, possibly another general election, a lot of things changing. It still feels like nothing is clearer to the public. What can we expect in this kind of uncertain time?
Well, in this time, we have to see how things pan out. Theresa May has to put forward bills in her Queen's speech, so we had to know, and from there we can see what she has decided to put to Parliament, her policies. Yeah. Now, theoretically, she should be doing that on her manifesto. But as we know, there were various things in the manifesto that she's already gone back on, such as the triple lock for pensioners, the social care U-turn. So she's already pulled back on those. So it remains to be seen what she actually puts in there. And we can't be any more definite until we know what is in there.
Right. So things are still really up in the air to point out.
Well, something I think we have to talk about, we were planning to talk about it in the papers, but obviously we got sidetracked a little bit, is obviously the inferno that's happened in London this week. Jeremy Corbyn's been on the site. I think the Queen is currently there. Kind of what are your thoughts on this tragedy?
Well, I tend not to sleep very well, so I tend to watch the news through the night. And when I saw it, I just couldn't believe it. It's got to be one of the worst disasters in Britain ever. There's been some other big fires, but this one is actually, I can't think of anything that's worse. And the generosity of the community, not only the community surrounding Grenfell, but people have come from all over the UK to make donations, and bring things down to help the community. The people have to be rehoused.
Yes.
That's a major priority at the moment. And locally,
so they don't lose their
community ties, their friends.
Exactly.
That's really important. And Jeremy has called for various luxury empty housing to be made available, and I think that's a really good idea. Because why not? They're empty. The other thing that has been brought to notice is the fact that the safety in the building wasn't up to par, wasn't up to scale. And Anne Jones took a bill through the Welsh Assembly to make sprinklers mandatory in all new buildings. But other things have come out, like the escape route wasn't there, and things like that. And
alarms
the cladding
weren't going off, apparently.
And the cladding was really made the fire worse.
The cladding's something I think a lot of people want to talk about, because obviously this building had only just gone through a regeneration of £10 million, and apparently it's come out that for as little as £5,000 more, the cladding could have been fireproof. Now, I think the issue that people are now thinking is there's so many buildings UK-wide that have recently had facelifts. I think there's a lot in Swansea, there's a lot kind of in Neath that have recently had facelifts. Should people be worried, Christina, that the buildings aren't safe?
The onus now is on the people who have built that, who put the cladding on, to make us, to reassure us that it is safe. I noticed in the Evening Post today that Rob Stewart, the leader of Swansea Council, has come out and said that he is, making provision to reassure people that all buildings are safe. And I think in Neath Talbot Council, they will be looking at that now as a matter of urgency.
Definitely.
When I was living alone with my little girl, I'm actually, fire terrifies me.
Right.
And not to be too morbid, but I don't want to be cremated. I want to be buried. And I've actually bought the plot next to my mother in the cemetery, because fire frightens me that much. Because it can take a hold immediately.
Yes.
And it can just engulf you so immediately. So we need that reassurance now.
Definitely.
What I think Jeremy Corbyn has shown his warmest side, and he is a very lovely man. He's very warm, very generous, very funny, but he really feels things. And him going there and meeting people and hugging them and having sympathy with them is the total opposite of what Theresa May did. She hasn't engaged with the people, she hasn't talked to people, and we saw that through the election. She's remained aloof, apart. And the Queen has gone there today, which is tremendous for the Queen to go there, today.
Definitely.
When Jeremy Corbyn was there last night, he was saying to some of the families, he will be the one asking the questions that need to be asked. And that's obviously so important, because someone needs to do it. And the issue is obviously so many people have been affected by that, but so many more people could be affected that are also in other high-rise buildings. So,
and we've got to remember as well is the emergency services as well. They've gone through a lot as well, and some of them had said it's the worst that they've ever been through. With some people, they've been working in the fire services for over 30 years, and they've said that's the worst that they ever had to attend. And they're going to have. They've said that they're going to be having sort of counselling as well, because sometimes I think we forget about them as well, that they go through a lot, they see a lot. I know it's their job, but they're still human as well.
We take them for granted, and that we should never do that. And so many times they've saved lives, which is fantastic, but so many times they've got to deal with what happens when they don't manage to save lives. And that must be absolutely soul-destroying, because they're in the services to save lives.
I read a story online yesterday that a fireman had writ before the firemen were entering the building. They were all given permanent markers and said, put your name on your helmet in case you don't come out. And what a task to do, to be told that is, the situation they're about to face.
They're absolute heroes, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, they are.
Absolute heroes.
Definitely.
And coming back to Parliament, they protect us. And, we don't take that for granted, because we're safe in their hands, and we know they are. And they've laid down their lives for us. What greater sacrifice can you make?
So in the final moments, let's talk about Parliament. How has the atmosphere been in the Labour camp?
Just smiling.
Yeah, we're all very, very positive. And I can't describe the atmosphere there. And we're all determined that if we do go to the country again, whenever that may be, it may not be in the autumn. It may be that Theresa May lasts out, because she can use parliamentary procedure to last out. For example, we normally go back after summer on the 5th of September, and we're there before the conference season begins at the end of September. Well, it's within her power not to bring us back before then. So she has less time in the chamber, less time to be voted down. There are procedures that she can use.
And Brexit?
Brexit, we're very positive about Brexit, because it's happened, the referendum's happened, we're not going to have another one, we respect the will of the people, but we're looking for the most positive deal we can get. So we put in jobs and growth first, and our leader of Brexit, Keir Starmer, is one of the most able people I've ever met, and he is looking to bring us out, because we have to, but with the best deal for the UK.
Brilliant. I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Christina.
And after the break, we're inviting Alun Gibbard to the sofa.
We'll see you in a minute on BayTV.
welcome back to your final part of Today on BayTV. I'm Liz Cairns, and next to me is Henry Darby-Cook.
Alun Gibbard has joined us, and Christina Rees is still with us. So, you've written a book about a Welsh rugby legend.
Yes, I have. Yes, Carwyn James, the only Lions coach ever to successfully coach a Lions party to a Test series victory in New Zealand, and he did that in 1971 when they won the Test series with a team full of stars, and in a way that, well, we've lost sight of, unfortunately, a little bit. It was great open flowing rugby with the ball moving where it should be moving, and yeah, Carwyn was the man behind that, and I spent the last 3 years trying to understand the man.
So how did it first come about to kind of put pen to paper?
A few years ago, I wrote a book on Llanelli Rugby Club's famous victory against the All Blacks in 1972, which has been immortalised by Max Boyce and other people, who beat the All Blacks, the day the pubs ran dry, etc., and all those phrases that have come from that one game, which I was at as a very young schoolboy, but I was there. And I wrote a book about that because my interest in sport is how it connects with community. It's a social history link between sport that I like. Why does Llanelli and the whole of South Wales have that link with sport? And how does it link with the way that the communities feed into the club, etc., etc.? So I wanted to look at that game and the impact of it on the town and on the community and on the rest of Wales as well. So anyway, I wrote that book. It went fairly well. And then after writing, I was sitting at home just kind of thinking back over it and just doing a little bit of a self-post-mortem, if such a thing is possible. But and started to think, is there a biography of Carwyn James? Because he was the coach of that club game, and I knew of him. Briefly worked for 6 months with him in the BBC when I started my working life. So I knew of him, obviously, and then made some inquiries, in other words, went on Google, and found out that, no, there wasn't a biography as such. There were 2 volumes that were commemorative volumes, but not a full, proper, traditional biography. So I knocked on the door of the publisher and told them exactly what I've just told you. And they contacted the Welsh Books Council, and the Books Council and the publishers between them said, this has to be rectified. And there it is.
Wow, it's a great cover. Did you choose the imagery, or?
Yeah, well, the book came out in the Welsh language before Christmas. It was a different cover.
Oh, right.
But we thought that because this is now out while the Lions are out there, and he is remembered chiefly in the rugby world for being the Lions coach, we thought that would work better for the English version, which is different to the Welsh, but I think it is a really strong cover because red does work well anyway.
Definitely. And what was the Welsh one like? What was the cover?
Yes, it was a little less colourful.
Right.
Okay.
It was kind of more browns and sepias and creams.
Right.
Just a head and shoulder portrait of Carwyn James.
Yeah.
I wanted with the Welshman to avoid the fact that there was a rugby reference. Maybe I went too far, but that's it with hindsight. The reason I wanted to do that is because I didn't want people only to think of Carwyn as a rugby man. Because he was so much more. He was a real man of literature. He was a lecturer in Trinity College. He taught as a housemaster in Llandovery College as well. Yeah, he was a real literary man.
Yeah.
He was also a broadcaster. He broadcast from the end of the 50s throughout his life until he died in 1983. He was also a politician who stood for Plaid Cymru in the general election of 1970 in Llanelli. So he was a many-faceted man.
Definitely.
And I wanted that to be reflected on the cover by not putting rugby there, but I've changed my mind.
It's really good timing to bring it up now. Did you always plan to do that, Aaron?
Yes. I have to say I'm a writer, but you have to have one eye on marketing as well and promotion. And I like to get heavily involved with marketing and promotion of my own stuff because I've realised very quickly once I started writing for a living that I didn't want to spend all that time and then the book just falls off the end of a cliff. So I get actively involved, like being here now.
I'm very passionate about sport. All through my life I've played sport. Went to the Munich Olympics as part of the GB youth team. Didn't play any sport then. We just went to sort of be mentored by the athletes. And of course that was
yes, very significant.
So that was the beginning of me looking into politics, being politicised, because I came back and I couldn't understand what had happened.
Yeah.
Because I was a little girl in Kenfig Hill who'd very young, never seen a gun.
Yeah.
You always sort of, bow when you saw the policeman come in, and I couldn't understand what terrorism was.
Terrorist attack at an Olympic event.
So I came back, and that was the start of it, my road into politics.
Right.
But I'm so passionate about sport because I changed tack then, and I took up squash at quite a late age, in my sort of middle 20s.
That's one thing I haven't done.
We'll play.
Just play squash.
And
in the wrong shape.
I went on to play for Wales then over 100 times, and then became a Welsh coach just before I became an MP. But the link between the community and sport is absolutely vital.
Absolutely.
If you take it in the Dillais Valley, I'm a member of Seven Sisters Rugby Club and support the teams there. But the link there is all the miners played rugby.
Yeah.
And that's the link in there. And that link has been maintained because it's thriving there at all ages, and you keep that community spirit going.
It is fascinating. The whole, if you go back to the 1870s, which I don't remember, when rugby first started to come to South Wales, when Llanelli, Swansea and different clubs were formed in the first place, what you had happening there was this public school game come into South Wales and turning into being a working man's game, a working class game. And that shift and the influence that the South Welsh had on the game in doing so, I find absolutely fascinating. And then the development from there, when the club and the community move on together, and it's very much a central part of community life, and has been. It's changing now. We have yet to see what the effect of that will be on sport and on the community. But the way that rugby particularly, and especially on a national level, on the rugby pitch, Wales exists as a nation. And we are recognised as Wales in rugby circles, because people know, Wales rugby team.
Yeah.
So that gives us a national identity as well as a community identity on a club level. And that's what I find fascinating. And for Carwyn is somebody who kind of embodied all those kind of values. He was from Cefneithin, a small village near Crosshands, but the village was important to him. He started seeing his first rugby game when his house in Cefneithin, the garden, backed onto the field in the park, where the men used to play their rugby at the time.
Yeah.
And then he used to go down, he tells the story in there, as a 3-year-old boy, he'd go down to the bottom of the garden and wanted his father to hold his hand, and he'd look through the gap in the hedge and watch the men play, and he said that the thunder of their feet on the hard ground frightened him. But that was his kind of first intro to rugby. Yeah. And then from there, he goes on to be a world-leading rugby coach. So there's community and world rugby in one garden.
Yeah. You can draw an analogy with squash, because squash used to be a public school sport, and the growth in the UK and worldwide came about when they started building leisure centres where public, the public could go along, could access them, and that's how it's grown. So the analogy is there then. Yeah. It's all about access to sport, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And we need to keep that open, no matter what. And as you know, local government now is under tremendous strain. Yeah. The cuts coming down from the M4 to the Welsh Government, then to local authorities. And providing leisure facilities isn't one of the statutory implications, it's and so many sports are being cut back, but we have to fight to keep that going.
Absolutely. And sport, and with Carwyn's emphasis, was a dual emphasis on developing sport, obviously, but also on literature and on the arts. And for him, there wasn't a choice. It was both. Yeah. And I'm looking forward. Tomorrow, I will be launching that book. I have to mention this as we come to the close.
I was going to ask you then.
Ask me then.
And if anybody wanted to buy your book, where could they go and how?
Oh, thank you for asking that. From tomorrow will be the first opportunity to buy it in Llanelli. There's an event in Llanelli House, a historical Grade 1 listed building. But tomorrow, rugby will be taken over, and under the capable chairmanship of Robert Lloyd, Terry Davis, a former British Lion who played with Carwyn for Swansea Llanelli, will be there. We're going to have to stop you there. We've actually run out of time. Llanelli House at 12.
Brilliant.
There we go.
Diolch.
Thank you both. Thank you to all our guests today and to all our viewers for watching us.
And today's film is The Captain's Table.